We start here this morning. It's day 2 of the second presidential summit on gender-based violence and femicide. Emotions ran high yesterday as delegates demanded answers on what government is doing to end the scourge. The president admitted the national strategic plan is not being implemented effectively and citizens must hold government accountable to make sure it works. For more, reporter Slindelo Masikana joins me live from Gallagher Estate in Midrand. Good morning, Slindelo. A lot was said yesterday, but the president essentially conceding that in as much as they have that strategic plan, we've seen gender-based violence continue unabated. Just give us a summation of yesterday's event.
Yeah, essentially a concession from President Cyril Ramaphosa that government has simply not been doing enough to end the scourge of gender-based violence, saying that there's been very little to no progress, saying that as governments they need to admit that they have not fulfilled many of the promises they made back in 2018, despite the fact that these these NGOs, these activists, as well as gender-based violence survivors had essentially given them the plan in terms of how they can end gender-based violence, but essentially not a lot of implementation that has taken place. And emotions ran high with many of the activists, holding ministers accountable, from the police ministry to the justice ministry, in a panel discussion, as well as the Speaker of Parliament and the Minister of Women in the presidency. They had to answer some very tough questions in terms of what their departments have done or essentially not done. And of course we had a presentation from the police's acting National Police Commissioner who painted what we know to be a very bleak picture. South African women, children, those most vulnerable in society are simply not safe anywhere in this country. But one of those who was very vocal in her criticism of government is Sihle Sibisi from the Kwanele Foundation, and you spoke quite extensively about how there are brown envelopes that go around, how NGOs such as yourself are silenced, they are stifled. Given the fact that there was a concession from the president that nothing really has happened since 2018, what do you make of this second summit that's taking place this year?
Well, for me, the second summit, I would say it's a facade. It's another way of just being able for them to account for funds, to say this is how much we used for this summit. And the reason why I say this is because there is no implementation. There is no accountability. Each speaker, each minister, even the president himself, they were speaking stats for us. But as the president conceded, there's nothing much that has been done. Instead, the rot of corruption, the rot of ill treatment and victimization of victims is becoming worse. I mean, police themselves, as we challenge the Minister of Police, Begikele, to say, police themselves are not getting counseling, they're not getting proper training. So how do we expect our police to work 100% if their employers are not giving them the best by making sure that they go through counseling, they train them proper, give them better salaries? Because behind the police uniform is a human being.
Sihle, maybe let's talk about the panel that we're going to have today with social development, with National Treasury. There's that issue of funding the fight, and that's, it doesn't seem like there's any political will, essentially. I mean, you raised the fact that during COVID-19, funds were mobilized very quickly.
Well, when it comes to the funding, I think we will talk about it until our voices vanish and disappear. There is no political will for them to fund issues of gender-based violence and femicide, because yesterday our president said they were dictated by a certain board where they had to issue out funds for COVID-19. He's now declared that GBVF is our first pandemic. So where are the funds? Where are the resources? Because on a daily, like I said yesterday, ministers, president, they don't see and they don't experience what we see and experience on the ground. Where is the money? Where is the funding? Instead of them standing up and speaking stats, because when we speak amongst ourselves as NPOs, we ask each other, they are talking of having funded 100 or 200 NPOs. Are you one of them? And half the time, no, none of us received the funds. So where is the money going to? Why are they not prioritizing gender-based violence and femicide? Especially knowing that it is across. It's not just the violence of women and children. Also men get violated. Why are they not prioritizing it? That is why I challenged Minister Maite yesterday when she said as a woman in South Africa she feels safe. How does she feel safe when she's got bodyguards? I should be saying I'm not safe. Women on the ground should be saying we're not safe because we are subjected to bullying, secondary victimization, threats on a daily. What is the government doing?
Yeah. Maybe then, perhaps as we conclude this summit later on today, what are you expecting to hear in terms of the resolutions? What needs to happen moving forward?
For me, we can have resolutions, but after the summit, will those resolutions be put in place? Because we can have resolutions tabled beautifully on documents, and then after the summit, we're going to meet again in the next 4 years. Are we going to come back and say, yeah, there were beautiful resolutions written down with no implementation? So what I hope for is that whatever resolution is discussed and concluded upon today, there must be time frames to say, if we're doing this within the next 30 days, within the next 60 days, time frames in place, so that when time frames are not adhered to, when organizations like ours make noise, no one should say, hey, Bakalile, these people are too radical, but we will be making noise based on the failure and the lack of implementation by our government. We are tired of stats. We are tired of our ministers standing up there telling us they've given so much, this is what they're doing. They are not doing nothing on the ground. On a daily, they are not there with us. They do not see what we see.
Maybe then just lastly, Sihle, if you can just for a moment, apart from being an activist and running this foundation, as a woman in South Africa, just how frustrating is it to know that even in your own home, you could be killed by your partner? Even if you walk down the street, you are simply at risk for perhaps not even coming back home to your own children, and your own children themselves also being one of those most vulnerable in society. Just take me through the emotional roller coaster that we go through as women in this country.
I think most women, speaking as a woman, most women have been subjected to having to take antidepressants, anxiety medication, because you're never sure, you never know now, because you could be killed, you could be injured in your own home, you could be injured in your own workplace. It's no longer like before where you felt safe. Now it's like a demon, this gender-based violence and femicide that has come up. So as a woman, you're not safe. Not only are men perpetrators, women also are perpetrators themselves. Emotionally, as women, we experience gender-based violence and femicide. Women spit vile. Women can say the most horrible things about the next woman, and they think it's okay. So as a woman, you go through a lot of emotions, emotionally, physically, mentally. It's not good on our mental health. So there's no point in us. I speak as a widow also to say you go through so much that has been said about you. People will say you can never marry again, you can never date again because you have bad luck. And mostly who says this? Women say this. Then you laugh when you see women who suddenly want to activate against these things, but they're the very women that are the ones that are inflicting pain on other women. So as women holistically, or as a society holistically, we are no longer safe. Talk of the man who is belittled in his home. Talk of the man who is not respected in his home. He also needs mental intervention. That is why we are a sick, sad nation, because we are so good in posting happy pictures everywhere. But within ourselves, emotionally, mentally, we are dying because we are not okay. We are being victimized, we are being harassed, we are being abused within our homes, behind the scenes, and people are afraid to speak out.
Thank you so much. All right, that is Sihle CBC from the Kwanele Foundation. And of course, as you can see behind me, that any moment now we should have the program convening, and we are going to see yet another panel discussion, yet another, I think, robust debate around the resolutions and the solutions moving forward. This is the second day, but of course, the summit will be concluding much later on, and we will be hearing back from the NPOs around the discussions they've had in their plenaries, and exactly the time frames that government will be given in order to see some implementation of the National Strategic Plan.
All right, Slindel, I can even see there that the women are energized for day 2 and the final day, as it were, of the summit. Thank you very much. We will catch up with you as soon as proceedings do get underway.